Good morning and welcome to today's Solving Puzzles with Python. An interesting puzzle today, one that caused me a few headaches, but we got there in the end, and without further ado, let's have a look at today's puzzle. So, show in the following sentence, that's this sentence here, each time ing occurs. So, Corning, trying to ingratiate himself with the farming folk, was seen warming his Pringles, there's an ing in the middle of Pringles, on the Ming vase, as you do. Now the question says you need to show it. We'll produce a count of the ings as well, just because it's easy and for completeness, but we need to show in the output where ing has occurred. And what I mean by that is that every time there is an ing, we indicate it, we show it, and in this case we bracket it. We put a bracket at the beginning of the ing and the end of the ing, and then we produce a count. Now, as I said, this starts off as a simple puzzle to solve, but it had a few stings in the tail, which took me a bit longer than normal to work around. But anyway, so like all good designs of computer programs, this design was produced after it was written. My original plan didn't go quite according to plan, and I may as well tell you why. Because this has a set number of characters, and you're going to have to go through each character to find out find out if ing occurs in the word. Easiest way, or one way of doing this, is to look for the I, and then once you've found an I, then see that it is part of an ing, and then you're going to insert before and after the ing the square brackets. But if you're on a set loop, a set iteration of for loop, then the length of the string increases. Okay, so if you find yourself here, you discover the first I, and then you put a bracket here and a bracket here, the count, the position where you are, has changed. If you started off with Corning, you found your first I, 1, 2, 3, 4, at the fifth element in the string. But by the time you've bracketed it, then it's now the sixth element in the string. And now you put a bracket at the end of it, your string is already 2 characters longer than it was just now. Okay? So, anyway, my plan for the program is, or was, declare and initialize the variables, iterate through the input string, iterate through the string, and look for instances of ing. Check instance of ing has not been picked before. I had to put in this because of the fact that the part of the string you're looking at changed. So as I said, if you're looking at character 5, yes, it originally did, and then when you bracket it and then you go back into the loop, then you're at a different position. You hear character 5 is there, and what I found is that you're continually picking up the first instance of ing. So there we go. Check the instance of ing has not been picked up before. Now, one reason for doing this exercise, doing this puzzle, was to work with strings, and strings are immutable. That means that unlike a list, you can't just insert an element into a list. So you can't just insert that in there. What you have to do is split up the string here. So after corn, you have to split the string and join it with the open brackets and then the rest of the string again. Okay, you can't just insert at element 5 an open bracket. What you must do is split the string here, append this to the end of the string, then append all this to the string. So your new string will be 4 characters, this, and then the remainder of the string. Okay, so check for instance, split the string at the start of the ing, here and insert a square bracket. Insert a square bracket there. Then you have to join the string back together. Then you have to split the string at the end of the ing, insert a close bracket, and then join the string back together. And you have to do that for each time that you discover an ing. Bearing in mind the string is getting longer each time and the position you're looking at has changed. The element you're looking at has changed. The element you were looking at was an I, and now the element is a bracket. At the end of the program, at the end of your algorithm, when you've got all that working, print out the count and print out the indicated string. Okay, so let's fire up idle and start doing this. So here we are. I have started already. I have inserted the string. It's called input string, and it is inserted. And I've inserted here. It goes off. It keeps on going at the end there. I haven't bothered splitting it. I've just put it all there. You know what it says. What we're going to find is ing, and I've called that string defined. It's called ing. I want to count how many instances of ing there are. The question doesn't ask me that, but I will do. For belt and braces, it's fun. It's easy to do. Why not? And match index is another variable, and that is index of the string, each element of the string. Index, it counts through each letter of the string, and I've called it match because I'm matching this to it. Okay, so let's have a look at the code. So I started doing a for loop, and I found the for loop didn't work that well because the count kept on getting longer. I start off with a count of 20, and then it got up to 30 when you started putting brackets. The for loop just didn't work, so I flipped to a while loop. So while the match index, so that which counts through every element, is less than the length of the string. Okay, so while that is the length of the string, and then I had to put my line of code in that detected previous instances. So if the input string match index -1 doesn't equal the open brackets, because I found that you'd get to corn and you'd put a square bracket in there, and it would just loop around in this little bit here because it kept on finding the first bit, kept on finding the first one multiple times, and really because it's looking forward. You insert a character here and then you're looking forward from here, so the next character finds is an I, not realizing that it had found the I just now and you've just moved the I further along. So we go back a step, so we find an I, we go back a step and check that we haven't already inserted in an open bracket. Now we want to detect the beginning of the ing. So if the letter I, which is the first letter in ing, we could actually use string defined first element and sort of not make the ing or the I hard coded, but I found it's easier to read if I hard code it. If you're going to make this a scalable and sort of dynamic bit of software that would search for any substring within a string, you might want to pull out email addresses or data of some sort, then you wouldn't hard code in the I, you would reference the first element of the string defined. So if the I is equal to double equal sign input string match index, so whichever element of here we're looking through. So that's our first letter found. We need to find the second, not the second letter, we need to find the rest of the string. We need to make sure that the I is part of ing. Okay, so if the input string first bit, from the first bit to 3 characters forward. So we have found the I, which is at match index. Match index plus 3 is the entirety of our substring, so we need to check that string defined is that part of the substring. So we found the I, we look forward 3 characters, grab that bit, and does that equal to string defined? Well, hopefully it does. Then we'll process it. If it doesn't, then we just move on. So we have found an instance of ing from match index to match index plus 3, and this is where we do the split and join. So our input string now consists of the input string up to match index, colon to match index, so it's up to match index, plus an open bracket, plus the rest of the string. Okay, from match index onwards. So that inserts the open bracket at match index. We now want to put the close bracket in, the closing bracket. So it's a very similar line of code, other than, there we go, very similar line of code. So now the input string consists of the input string match index plus 4, because you say, well, why it should be match index plus 3? It's now 4 because we've inserted a bracket. So it used to be 3, we shoved in another character, so now it's 4 to get to the end of the ing. Okay, and so plus 4 takes us to the end of the ing, and then it's the rest of the string. That's how we insert the brackets. Obviously our string has now increased by 2 characters in length. I want to keep a count. We've got a counter called counter. So this is fired. These lines of code have fired if we have found an ing. So this is an appropriate place to increment our count by 1, because we got to here, so therefore we must have found an ing. And we are nearly there. We need to increment match index, because match index is here, but it's static. It's not. Nothing's happening. We need to increment match index if this doesn't trigger. So match index plus equals 1. That will increment match index. That should line up with that, and carry us through our string. We do need to print things out when we've gone through the entire string. When this while loop has ceased, we will print things out. So here, there we are. Print where ing appears is indicated below. There were so many instances of ing. Let's put in a blank print statement to separate it out, to make it a bit more human readable. And then we can print our input string, I believe. Let's minimize that. Let's print our input string. Let's minimize that. Okay. Print input string, which input string has been amended by the inclusion of every instance of a bracket, so it will no longer be this, it will be as a result of this. And let's see if it works. Run module F5, source must be saved. Let's save it. Okay, and there we have it. Where ing appears is indicated below. There were 8 instances of it. Corning trying to ingratiate himself with the farming folk was seen ingeniously. That split ingeniously. Have I spelled that right? Probably. yes, ingeniously warming. Let's get that to logical split. There we go. Was seen ingeniously warming his Pringles on the Ming vase. Let's double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there we have it. Thank you for watching Solving Puzzles with Python, and tune in next week for next week's puzzle to be solved.